Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Jeff from Likwid Gaming. Today we're going to be checking out the top 10 rarest and most expensive NES titles. All of these games are going to be in the triple digit to 4 and 5 digit prices. These prices aren't based on how exciting or how exclusive the game is. Some of these games are complete nonsense trash. They're just absolutely hard to find, or there weren't many cartridges produced, which leads them to this list, which we'll get into now. Let's do it. Alright, coming in at number 10, we have an NES title from Sofel. That's the manufacturer of this game, S-O-F-E-L. And this is called Dragon Fighter. This game is going to cost you about $150 to $200. This is a fantasy-inspired side-scrolling adventure game. It was released in 1992 in North America. This game, Dragon Fighter, plays like most other action side-scrollers, allowing the player to jump, attack, use items, your basic stuff. You'll battle through 6 stages, eventually taking on the evil warlock Zabong. It's definitely an uncommon game to find. Many enjoyed this game for its interesting story and unique power-ups. As far as the price tag, I don't have that answer. I would have to assume that not many of these cartridges were made. I've actually never even heard of this game. And there you have it. Alright, coming in at number 9, we've got Zombie Nation from Meldac. M-E-L-D-A-C. That's the publisher for this one. This game's going to run you about $200 to $400. And this grossed out action game is basically noteworthy for its weirdness as well as its rarity. You control a disembodied head that destroys buildings and enemies by shooting eyeballs and vomiting on them. The game also mashes the samurai and zombie genre into some kind of successful mixture, and it actually gives us an interesting and quirky little landscape to play through here. I know it's priced because there weren't many cartridges produced. Alright guys, coming in at number 8, we have a $500 NES title from Capcom. And this was originally released in arcades, and it's an action platformer that borrows most of its inspiration from games like Ice Climber and Bubble Bobble. This game, of course, is none other than Snow Brothers. In it, you control one of the Snow Brothers, either Nick or Tom. By throwing snow at the enemies and rolling them into balls, you clear the screens and move on to the next. It's a good game. For anyone who's a fan of Bubble Bobble or stage-based action games, Snow Brothers is a fun game. As far as the price tag, I don't know. I can't speak for this one. I've actually never even seen or heard of this game. But if you've got $400 to blow, $500 to blow, this is the one for you. Alright, now coming in at number 7. I've already talked about this game before in a previous video, which I will link below. This is Tato's release of Little Samson. Now, Little Samson is going to retail for about $1,000, $2,000, maybe even $3,000. You can go ahead and look it up on eBay if you don't believe me. I actually had to see if it was true, and I'll be damned if it's not true. There are a couple replicas and remade cartridges on there for very cheap, but they're clearly marked as fake. So this is often regarded as one of the rarest NES games of all time. It's definitely one of the most expensive games to obtain, and the only reason it's not number 1 is because A, I've already done a video on it, and B, really the only reason that this game is in such high demand is that it was released at the end of the NES's lifetime. So it's not that this game is extraordinary in any way, it just happened to be released when no one gave a crap about Nintendo anymore, so they only made a few carts, and now they're ridiculously hard to find. The controls are easy to learn. The ability to use the different characters really shakes things up. I had a good time with it. If you watch the video of me playing through it, that was the first time I ever touched the game, and I had a blast with it. I'd have to imagine you're not going to run out and spend $3,000 on a cartridge, so you're probably going to end up playing this on an emulator, which I highly recommend you do. Great game, and there it is. All right, coming in at number 6, we have another Capcom title. This is going to run you a little over 500, a little less than 600, depending on where you pick it up. This is Mighty Final Fight. Not to be confused with Final Fight. Mighty Final Fight is a spin-off on the incredibly popular Capcom series, Final Fight. It was a huge success in the arcade and on the home consoles. It's often considered a classic beat-em-up game. Well, Final Fight was considered a classic beat-em-up game. Unlike Final Fight's more realistic art style, Mighty Final Fight replaces the characters with more like cutesy little anime, wide-eyed little characters. Additionally, the characters can earn experience points, they learn new moves. The NES version contains all the playable characters from the arcade, nothing was ripped or removed. If you like beat-em-up games like River City Ransom, Double Dragon 2, Double Dragon 3, Mighty Final Fight will be an instant favorite. And again, this is going to run you a little over $500 simply because of how much of a gem this game is. Alright, coming in at number 5, we have a game that's right around the price range of Little Samson. This could run you up to as much as $3,000 for an original cartridge. And again, it's a Taito game, oddly enough. This is the Flintstones Surprise at Dinosaur Peak. This game's rarity is often debated subject, and I'm going to explain why. Some people claim the game was only available at Blockbuster stores as a rental, and the only way it was circulated was from people stealing the rentals and passing them around. Others claim the game was available at all over, and it's just rare because it's an amazing title. Regardless of whatever you want to believe, Surprise at Dinosaur Peak was never released in Japan, which makes it just a little bit more rare. This is a US only release. So basically you're going to control Fred and Barney. You set off on an adventure that borrows much of its gameplay from the original game, The Flintstones. This would be an expansion of it. This is Surprise at Dinosaur Peak. It's one of the rarest NES games that has ever reached store shelves, whether it was Blockbuster or whether it was game stores. This is upwards of $2,500 to $3,000 for an original copy. Alright, coming in at number 4, we have Panic Restaurant. This is another Taito release. This one's going to run you about $800, $900, maybe $1,000. This is another weird platform game. Panic Restaurant has its players navigating as the main character Cookie. You're running around through your restaurant. You got this other chef named Odove who's trying to overtake your restaurant. The enemies are all food themed. The environments are all restaurant themed. Great platform game. It's extremely personable the way it's set up. It's extremely expensive, and probably because it was released 7 years after the NES was launched, which obviously translates to not a lot of cartridges, not a lot of players, not a lot of games circulating. Boom, price goes up, and there you have it. Now let's move off to the top 3. Alright, as we get down to the top 3, things are going to get weird. We have Nintendo games that cost more than cars. We have Nintendo games that cost more than small houses. Let's get right into it. Number 3, stadium events. This is a Bandai release that you will have to pay over $10,000 for. You may find it online for 10, 10.5, 11, 11.5, about a little shy of 12,000 was the highest I've seen an actual listing for the original cartridge. It's one of the most talked about and actually often faked NES games ever released. It used to come with the fun mat, you know, the thing that looked like Twister. You plug it in, and you step on the circles, and you do the little track and field events or what have you. That's this. So basically, just like that game I was just mentioning, track and field, you would use the soft mat to compete in a variety of sports competitions. Eventually, the game was rebranded by Nintendo as World Class Track Meet, making the original cartridges with the Stadium Events title extremely sought after. These are the releases that you'll see for 9, 10, 11, and 12 grand online. Many of the listings found on eBay and other sites have found to be fake, so be careful if you're looking for this one as a collector. If you just want to check it out and see what's what, your best bet is to check this out on an emulator. There it is. All right, moving right along at number 2, we have a Nintendo release. This is Campus Challenge 1991. I'm not going to tell you what it's worth just yet. Just hang in there. There's no chance that you have a copy of this one laying around. There's only one copy of this game known to exist. Back in 91, Nintendo put on a challenge event at colleges around the United States and created a very unique cartridge for it. This cartridge contains Super Mario Bros. 3, Dr. Mario, and Pinbot, and had a timer for each game. The existing copy was found at an ex-Nintendo employee's garage sale, where it sold as a package deal for only $40. Once the buyer had this one-of-a-kind cartridge in his hand, he set the price at $20,100. And obviously the story of how this game came to fruition should definitely give you a pause anytime you pass a garage sale, because you never know what you might find. Imagine turning $40 into over $20,000. That's a good day. All right. And in the number 1 spot, we have a cartridge. I'm gonna leave the price for the very end, and now we're just gonna talk about what this is and how it came to be. This cartridge is widely considered the holy grail of NES collecting, and it's definitely by far the most expensive game in retro gaming history, period. There's no games this old that cost this damn much money. So, much like number 2, that Nintendo Campus Challenge, this is the Nintendo World Championship. These cartridges were created as part of a gaming competition by Nintendo in 1991. They were held across about 20, 30, maybe 40 major cities in the United States, and the finalists got ridiculously amazing prizes. Now, the finalists in the championship were given gray versions of the World Championship cartridge, the ones that were actually used in the competition. There's a lot of these floating around. They're expensive, but they're not the ones we're talking about. The ones we're talking about are the gold cartridges. They're pretty similar to the Zelda, the original Zelda cartridge, the way it just gleamed, that gold, beautiful color. Well, 26 of those were given out via a contest held in Nintendo Power magazine. These cartridges were identical to the ones used in the competition. They had Super Mario Bros., Rad Racer, and Tetris, with the built-in timer just like the Campus Challenge had. Now, Nintendo did revive the World Championship in 2015 and another in 2017, but the prizes kind of sucked. And they definitely didn't give out any cartridges that came anywhere near the rarity of the World Championship cartridge. Now, most of the sales of this cartridge have been done privately, so it's hard to track the pricing of it, but a few happened to be sold online. In 2009, one of the gold cartridges went for $13,600. In 2014, that cartridge was relisted and sold for $29,488. And the most recent online sale was in the beginning of 2015, and it sold for $26,000 and some change. Now, these aren't listings. This isn't some wackadoo collector going to eBay or Amazon and just listing their item for some bonkers price. This is the actual sale prices. This game actually sold for almost $30,000. There you have it. If you're a collector or you have too much money, I suggest you go get these 10 games and add them to your collection immediately. Peace out.